Dutch, like most Europeans, cling to their traditions. In today's fast-paced world, history is comfortable and reassuring. But in the Netherlands, the past really is history, and the present is an altogether different country.
De beveiliging weet ik niet, dat kunnen ze niet zo op voorhand zeggen.
Ayan Hirsi Ali describes herself as a refugee. She was born in Somalia, but sought asylum in the Netherlands. Now she's built a political career calling for immigration to be stopped. She says radical Islam is now a threat to Dutch society.
As long as there is a tension between minorities and majority, it's not responsible for the government to invite more people from outside, because you can't give them a safe haven, and that's what they seek.
For the past few decades, the Netherlands has had an open door. Immigration has changed the face of the nation. Eddie Zoe is the host of the Integration Show. It's an irreverent dig at a subject that used to be almost taboo in the mainstream Dutch media. Last year, the show became a cult hit on the youth network BNN.
We did the Integration Show because after the Twin Towers this disaster, foreigners, and especially all the ethnics in Holland, basically were very much frowned upon and were suspicious. And what we wanted to show is that you can have a lot of fun with all the ethnics and learn a lot from all the ethnics, and also point out that a lot of customs from the Dutch are ridiculous as well.
Hello.
The man who forced the immigration discussion to the surface was Pim Fortuyn, a uniquely Dutch politician, flamboyant, openly gay and extremely controversial. Fortuyn pushed a blatantly anti-immigrant agenda. He blamed migrants, especially Muslims, for the increasing crime rate. He called for Holland's borders to be closed, and he claimed that Islam was threatening Dutch traditions.
Yes, it is a backward culture. I have written a complete book about it.
In his short time in the spotlight, Fortuyn turned politics in the Netherlands on its head, a fact now recognised by grassroots politicians of all persuasions.
He made it possible to talk about immigrants in a way that we'd never done before in the Netherlands. Very simplistic, black and white, very much us against them, and articulated feelings that were already there in Dutch society, which is that they're the foreigners, they should adapt, they don't have the same kind of values we do, and it's up to them to change.
Goedemorgen. Goedemorgen.
Lucevies van der Laan is a member of the small centre-left party D66. Even she says Pim Fortuyn deserves credit for breaking open a much-needed debate.
So it very much polarized the debate on the one hand, but on the other hand, it allowed public feeling to be voiced in a way it had never done before, which I guess in a way was also necessary because we'd been suppressing it for too long.
On the surface, multiculturalism appears to have been a success in Holland. Many workplaces have tried hard to promote integration. Cultural days like this are common. But in some Dutch cities, immigrants now make up more than half the population, and Mohammed is the most popular name for baby boys. Pim Fortuyn believed Dutch tolerance had gone too far. So does Ayan Hirsi Ali.
The notion that all cultures are alike and all cultures are equal has been behind policy. So if you had within cultures like female genital mutilation, or women being beaten up or locked inside, or being married off to other men whom they have not chosen, or being raped, if that happened within minority communities, then it was condoned because all cultures are supposed to be equal. And I said defining tolerance that way is wrong.
Like Pim Fortuyn, Ayan Hirsi Ali is deliberately controversial. She's openly criticised Islam and the teachings of the Prophet Mohammed. Her views have catapulted her into the parliament. At the last election, she won a seat for the Liberal Party. She's now one of the new crop of women politicians. She says the success of Pim Fortuyn's political party in the May 2002 election changed the political culture of the nation and gave her the platform she was looking for.
What has dramatically changed is before the 15th of May, anyone who would dare criticize Islam would be called an Islamophobic. Anyone who would criticize the cultures of non-Western people would be called a racist. People would say you are discriminating, and I think that's my role is that I confuse those people because I am black and I was a Muslim and I'm a woman and I say exactly those things. So it's really difficult to accuse me.
It's also difficult to accuse her because of her own traumatic experiences. Ayan Hirsi Ali was circumcised when she was just 5. She was locked indoors for most of her youth, and she escaped from an arranged marriage in her 20s. But in Holland, she's being compared to Salman Rushdie. Her views have sparked outrage in the Muslim community. She's been condemned by clerics and become the target of death threats. She now travels everywhere with bodyguards.
It's kind of fatalistic, so I don't really pay much attention to these imams as long as I have protection with me now. That's the advantage of having security. Then I can fight them with words because they have no arguments.
I think at the end of the day it's very healthy to have her as part of the debate because you do need to have Muslim women coming out and explaining why they think certain practices are or are not acceptable. And if what Ayan Hirsi Ali is doing is stereotyping, well, let them explain why they don't fit into that stereotype. I think it's been very good in getting things out in the open.
Proof of the shift in political thinking in Holland can already be found in the mosques. Proposals have been put forward that would require imams to deliver their sermons in Dutch. And perhaps surprisingly, many clerics have embraced the efforts being made to help bridge the cultural barriers. Mehmet Hulusi Unay is the head mufti at Amsterdam's Turkish mosque. He's also an enthusiastic Dutch language student. His teacher says many clerics share the mufti's motivation.
There is negative publicity about the Islam and about Muslims, and they want to participate in the discussions that are going around in the media. So they want to be able to follow the media better, to read the newspapers, to watch television programs, and also to express their own ideas, because in their opinion there are a lot of misunderstandings.
But not all Muslims are so keen to embrace the politicians' new integration ethic. For some, even the word itself presents a problem.
Zeggen, ja, je moet hier integreren. Ja. Hoe moet ik me integreren? Wat vindt een Nederlander van mijn integratie? Ik vind als Marokkaan zijnde dat ik Nederlands spreek, dat ik omga met Nederlander, dat ik gewoon mijn werk verricht, dat ik wat de wet en de regels van het Nederlands zijn, dat ik ze respecteer en dat ik daarmee omga, vind ik al een hoop integratie. Maar wat wordt van mij gevraagd? Dat ik mijn haar ga blonderen, dat ik zeg dat ik integreer? Nee. Betrekken wij eigenlijk ons bij die mensen?
Yusuf Meluk is a Moroccan Islamic scholar. He says integration requires cultural respect from both sides. He spends a good deal of time actively trying to facilitate communication between the two communities. But he says Ayan Hirsi Ali isn't helping.
Het zou mooi zijn als Hirsi Ali haar woorden terugtrekt over de profeet Mohammed. Ik kan heel makkelijk negativeren. Ik heb lessen gegeven hier, overal. Maar ik ga nooit over Jezus, dat de vrede op zijn cel zijn. Of op Mozes, of dan ook een negatieve ding trekken. Ik hoop dat ze haar woorden terugtrekt. Het is gewoon een kwestie, je tast iemand die helemaal de beste mens is op deze universum. En ik kan wel mensen begrijpen als hun haat nu gaan uitvoeren tegenover haar. Jij wil praten. Islam zegt nooit dat je mag niet praten, nee. Maar zijn limiet.
On election night earlier this year, Hirsi Ali's Liberal Party wasn't celebrating victory. While she won her seat, the party didn't win a place in government. But for all the traditional parties of the centre, this was a welcome return to normality for Dutch politics.
Just as much as people love us for clogs and windmills, people also think, well, it's the country which allows homosexuals to get married. It's a country which doesn't spend its police time cracking down on soft drugs when we all know that that's not where the big problems are. At the same time, it's not good if there are serious problems in society with people who don't integrate, population groups that cause a large percentage of the crime, that we're not able to discuss that. And I'm glad that we've gotten over that hurdle and that we can discuss it quite openly without having to be branded a racist or a fascist immediately.
By taking on board some of the policies of the late Pim Fortuyn, the mainstream has won back the votes of the radical right. And ironically, that in itself is proof, they say, that the tradition of tolerance is still alive and well in the Netherlands.